Hello! The month of February, though short and valentine-y, has been quite an eventful reading month for me. I managed to read 6 books this month, one of which was completed in one day, as you may have seen from my latest vlog. Let's get into what I liked, what I loved, and what I sleepwalked through. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Neverland Book Club. Today is a new month. We enter our 2nd year here on YouTube and I can't wait to share more and more books and projects with you, dear viewers. First, we have to address the elephant in the room. Sarah J. Maas. She is a lovely, talented little elephant, one I never thought I'd enjoy so much. In last month's TBR video, I said I wanted to savor these like fine fairy wine. Instead, I binged them, like an ogre glutton. What? I started and finished one after another, starting A Court of Wings and Ruin at the end of the vlog that you may have seen, and then finishing A Court of Frost and Starlight in a day. Same was done with Sputnik Sweetheart. Here's the thing, folks. Never, and I mean never, did I peg myself for a fantasy reader. Yes, I have enjoyed fantasy here and there in the past, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, you know, the classics. But a modern fantasy written by someone alive and uncancelled today? Other than the tidbits of fantasy elements King has sprinkled throughout his works, I just never really ventured into that section of the bookstore with much hope or excitement before. Until now. I was so enveloped in the world of Prythian, in the story, in the relationships of these characters, in the overall experience of being transported to a literal fairy world. I had so much fun, and I couldn't stop. But I'll stop here and save it for a review. Maybe next week. Now, after Mist and Fury, but before Wings and Ruin, I forced myself to have a little palette cleanse. Hold on, there's too many books on me. Girl Serpent Thorn. Girl Serpent Thorn by Melissa Bashar-Dust was a quick and refreshing fairy tale about the importance of acceptance and trust. Our main character, Soraya, is a hidden princess with a twin brother destined to rule. Her mother carries secrets she does not dare look into, for she is poisonous to the touch. When presented with a div, a creature created and not born, with beautiful moth wings, and an unlikely hero who knows her story by heart, she unravels the history behind her poisonous curse, and the lie that has led her entire life. This standalone fantasy novel felt more like a folk tale than fantasy. The world building didn't need much explanation, the premise was straightforward, and the adventure was constant. With twists and turns around every page, you as the reader don't know who to trust, just as Soraya can't decide where her allies lie. I remember reading a bit of this on my phone, secretly, at work, and revealing my secret when I audibly gasped. I was startled. Next we have Sputnik Sweetheart. You all watched me read this in one day, and although I didn't really discuss my thoughts while reading, I will reiterate what I said in that video, in that this was not my favorite Murakami read. Though it was still solid and still had that magical realism feel to it, it didn't necessarily give me that nostalgic feeling like Norwegian Wood or Kafka on the Shore. I'm starting to find a pattern in Murakami's stories of lost men and found women, which is what sparked one of the titles on my TBR, but we'll get to that in a minute. Our main character is a man who simply acts as a conduit for the stories of our 2 main female characters. The MC is in love with a woman named Sumir. Not sure how to pronounce her name. We'll say Sumir, who has friend-zoned him for years because she is in love with another woman named Mew, who, due to a haunting catalytic event, does not feel such things as love or sexual desire any longer. This angsty love triangle makes for an interesting band of characters as they navigate around themselves, and because it's Murakami, someone is lost, needing to be found. It's mostly a woman. Are you okay? This novel is perfect for a day like I shared in my vlog, a gloomy day where the clouds are at play, and you just so happen to be stuck in your most comfortable spot for as long as it takes for you to finish reading 210 pages. Short, sweet, magical, realism. Sputnik Sweetheart. Last and least memorable on my list of February reads is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I can't remember what I liked about this novel. Youths. After going on a fantasy binge followed by Murakami, followed by more fantasy, I just couldn't get myself to be excited about picking this one up, to be honest. Being a murder mystery tied into a coming-of-age story, I had high hopes, but it just fell a bit flat for me. We follow the life of Kaya Clark, infamously deemed the Marsh Girl by fellow townspeople. She's a Mowgli of a girl living off the marsh, illiterate, barefoot, wild, and of course, beautiful. We follow her searching for the approval of her father, of her town, always coming up short despite her relentless charisma. As an adult, she is suspected of murder, and the rest of the story is mostly in a courtroom explaining all the ways in which she couldn't have done it despite her history with the deceased. She overcomes stigmas, overcomes her own illiteracy, finds her way in the world quite well, actually, and even finds love. And then the ending disappoints you in a realistic way, which is not what we want to read, so I didn't quite like it. Which sucks because I've been hearing such wonderful things about it, but I still hear good things about Blood and Ash, so some people are just wrong. It's a bad book. Anyway, don't come for me. On to March TBR. Since I'm on such a reading high at the moment, I'd like to ride this wave for as long as I can, and add even more titles to my long, long list. This month, I know for a fact, we'll be overwhelmed by this big bastard right here, which is not in my hand. It's over there. Should I grab it? This big bastard right here. Look at it. A Court of Silver Flame. I need to know Nesta's story. I need more Cassian. I need to read the spicy bits that has all of TikTok blushing. Give me the fairy porn. What? Fairy godparents! Fairy porn! In an interview, Sarah J. Maas revealed that she intends for each of the Archeron sisters to have their own stories told. The first 3 books revolving around Feyre's involvement in the war with Hybern, the 4th being the aftermath and a bit of a Christmas special, tying in the main characters of this big guy into the mix. The Court of Silver Flame is all Nesta and Cassian, and I can't wait. Am I sad to see Feyre's perspective gone? Yes. Even the little hints of Rhysand's perspective were fun to read. But I am ready for this. I see a bit of myself in Nesta, in her guarding of herself, in her walls and sharp tongue, all as a defense. I'm not sure what types of situations we will find her in this one, or what positions we'll find her in. Sexual positions. But I'm sure I'll have just as much fun as I had with the previous 4. Maybe more. Apparently she's a freak. After which I imagine I'll need another palate cleanse. Beach Read by Emily Henry being that cleanse. Hello? Can you please silence your phones? Oh. After reading People We Met on Vacation, I knew I wanted to also read Beach Read. My only qualm with this novel is the fact that it is a novel about writing novels. You all know how tired I am of the writers writing about writers thing. But if done well, it can sometimes be all play and hardly any work. Did that make sense? I can't tell. Beach Read is a contemporary romance following our main character, January Andrews, as she is struck with a serious bout of writer's block after the death of her father. And I assume only a dark and broody love interest can pull her out of that rut. Am I right? I'll have to read and find out. I'm probably right. These are starting to get pretty predictable, but still fun. A bit like fairy tales, contemporary romance novels are made to feel something other than dread, which was mostly what I had been reading before. The misery porn rather than the fairy kind. I like both, really. Next, we have a highly anticipated read, and one I had been patiently sitting by my front door waiting for months after pre-ordering. Gallant by Ve Schwab. Everything casts a shadow, even the world we live in, and as with every shadow, there is a place where it must touch, a seam where the shadow meets its source. Not only was I hooked due to the refreshingly talented author of this book, but that tagline hooked me for other nostalgic reasons as well. Peter Pan. I'm talking about Peter Pan. The whole deal with Peter chasing after his shadow, trying to stick it back to his foot with a bar of soap, that's what I saw when I read the tagline for Gallant, which naturally made me instantly invested. Our main character, Olivia Pryor, is an orphan living in a school for girls with only her mother's journal as a remnant of her origins. Where she receives a letter to return home, to Gallant, she willingly goes in search of answers. But when she arrives, she finds her surroundings are not as inviting as she had anticipated. Gallant is categorized as young adult horror with elements of fantasy. I am particularly excited to see how these beautiful and captivating illustrations take part in the storytelling, as well as these pages in the middle that I assume are from Olivia's mother's journal. the little passages. What?
Surreal story?
No, fiction.
Good.
Ve Schwab. I love you. Please keep writing books. Thank you. All right, on to Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. You know, the Shadow and Bone lady. I've seen Ninth House on my TikTok and Instagram feed for years now, and after reading the Shadow and Bone trilogy and then the Six of Crows duology, I wasn't exactly itching to pick up another one of Leigh Bardugo's novels right away. Nevertheless, the premise here strikes me right in the dark academia aesthetics. With a sixth sense right off the bat, our main character, Galaxy Stern, who goes by Alex for some reason, can see dead people. She can see dead people. And she goes to Yale! Yeah. Where there are secret societies doing secret society things and have to do with the ghosts she's seeing, I assume. I don't know, I haven't read it yet. But it all sounds dark and academic and grimy and nothing like the Grishaverse at all. This apparently partly takes place on the streets of Los Angeles, and I'm curious to see if Bardugo knows her LA geography. Not that I do, having grown up in Los Angeles. I still don't know my home or work address. But it's okay, I always know where I am once I get there, sometimes. It's not important. What is important is the next book on our March list, The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, the first book of the trilogy that blends historical fiction and fantasy with elements of martial arts, magic, and war. Sign me the heck up. We follow a war orphan as she manages to climb up the ranks through sheer perseverance, skill, and an excellent study regimen. The same one that worked for me when I went to university, to be honest. Just memorization and no sleep. That'll do it. I may have already started reading this one, and I do like it so far. I'm telling you, one after another. I can't get enough of this drug. When it comes to learning about cultures, events, and stories of real people, there really is no better way than through historical fiction. Because we all know the history textbooks, they lie anyway. They're basically historical fiction themselves, just much more boring, and I'll tell you, I DNF'd every single one of those in school. Give me the cold, hard, unbearable truth with a bit of firebending confettied throughout. And that's what is so refreshing about historical fiction written through the perspective of the individual whose history was shaped due to the events you're reading about. They are telling their truth. So I am excited to see how far Rin goes in her fight, and I can already tell I will definitely be reading the following 2 books in this trilogy. The martial arts alone are wonderfully described, and I won't get into it here, but I'd appreciate that a lot. No, not on this channel, not yet. Last on our list is Men Without Women by Haruki Murakami. I mentioned earlier that Murakami has a habit of misplacing women in his stories, and this title really made me laugh out loud. Again, Murakami? You lost more women? Where are you putting them? Men Without Women is actually a title my mom asked about initially. A collection of short stories about men constantly misplacing the women in their lives. The first story, Drive My Car, happens to be adapted into a film that is up for an Oscar this year. Not that the Oscars mean anything anymore. But still, I'm interested in... What?
Really?
Yeah.
I've heard of that movie.
Yeah, it's
From this book?
Mm-hmm. It's a short story. But still, I am interested in reading the short story and then watching the film. Probably with my wonderful mama.
Watch it with me.
I can't watch it with both of you?
No.
No? Okay, you're not gonna like what I'm gonna say next. If you're watching this, mother, check the times at the cinemas. I'll come pick you up. Don't forget your mask. And Pablo's coming with me. All right, that's all I have for you all today, dear viewers. Thank you so much for watching. Another month and you're still here. I am so glad. What are you reading this month? What was your favorite read of February? How have you been? Anything new in your life right now? Comment down below. I don't always get a chance to respond immediately, but I try to respond to all of your lovely comments, so thank you. Be sure to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you're not. Today's shout out goes to Monica Giguer. I'm very glad to hear Where the Crawdads Sing got you back into reading. No matter what book, that is always a good thing to hear. When someone falls back in love with the magic that is reading. For me, this book in particular just didn't hit the mark, but I'm open to hear what you enjoyed most about your experience. Alright, I'm off to go finish the Acotar series in its entirety just to look at the 2 Crescent City books I purchased, but refuse to read just yet, for fear of dropping from this high cloud I found myself floating on with my fairy bat wings. Stay lost, keep reading. Goodbye!